This is a repost of something I did ages ago, but I felt like it needed talking about again. So, welcome to this episode of the Bald Book Geek. Before we get into this, remember to like, subscribe, and also check out Patreon, Substack, and memberships for exclusive content you'll never get anywhere else. Let's be real, literary agents. Let's look back. And I firmly admit this is not scripted, it sounds it, I've cleaned it up a bit in the edit, but here it is. Welcome back. I've done videos on literary agents before. I did one on my main channel about the drama that went down with someone telling someone to rip off another person's story. A video on this channel where I talked my personal experience, and I felt like I needed to go more into that personal experience. Hi, I'm Will. You know what to do if you want to see content or get to know me. Where do I start with this? So I'll give you a backbone. I was traditionally published in my early 20s, and it was a disaster. It was an experience that left me extremely cold and made me question everything about the publishing industry. I've come close with two publishers, a small independent publisher that basically ended up taking so long that it put everything on hold for a year and a half. And in the end, no one ever got back to me when I emailed them, and I just emailed them going, since there's no movement, no information, I'm moving on to someone else. Thank you for your time. And there was another deal that almost happened that that was with a offshoot from one of the big five, and that just kind of ended the same way. So I've I have hundreds of emails and rejection emails and letters over the years that I keep to remind me to keep going, and maybe that's not healthy. But let's talk about it. I had a meeting with a very well-respected literary agent within the fantasy genre, and she was really excited and very, very happy about my book. She loved it, and I thank her for giving me advice of tightening up the story, editing some chapters down, merging things together. Like, she really was good, and this is no hate against her by any means, and we're still connected privately, and she no longer works in the industry because of stuff like this. She ended up saying, would you be able to come to certain city? I will be paying for lunch and a few drinks because we need to have a conversation, and I'd rather do it face to face. So she paid for me to come down to wherever and gave me the restaurant name, and we met, and it was wonderful. But her exact words, because we connected personally and we still are, and her exact words were, I wanted to do this in my own time rather than dealing with it through office emails and Zooms because they'll know what's being said. She said a very well-respected fantasy publisher, one of the offshoot from the Big Five again, is very interested in the Slave Prince. But they want changes, big changes, and I don't think your book needs them, but I need to lay it out if you're willing to. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't, I completely understand. Changes included switching the love story in the novel to a gay romance and making the romance more of a forefront, switching the readership from an adult novel to a young adult or new adult novel, and me wanting to market the book on my sexuality because, in her own words, a straight passing man who appears white, although technically I'm not. There's the whole I'm so swirly, but there is a very large percentage of Mexican in me, and it's not my fault my dad ran out of toner. If you read my US paperwork, I'm listed as a Hispanic male. So that's a whole thing. Anyway, we went through that list, and she said they have to fill a quota. And their quotas from their office require a certain level of, her exact words, diversity points. And she said, then this sentence will haunt me forever. So going by your face, you don't want to do this, and I completely understand because I think it would be a complete destruction of your work. And I would advise you not to do this. And I looked at her and said, I'm not doing that. I said, good. They wanted to fundamentally change the book and the narrative of the book to suit a younger readership and a LGBTQ readership. And really, my novel, The Slave Prince, is not. The love story is second. The love story is the theme of free will versus fate. And really, the character dynamic needs to be between a man and a woman because of the way that it's written, because of the narrative, and it would mean changing, fundamentally changing huge chunks of the book and the backstory. And if you're a member of my Patreon or a member of my main YouTube channel, Bald Book Geek, you can actually hear me talk about this stuff in more in depth because the general audience aren't interested, but my more smaller audience on the membership and Patreon side really are. And it was such a weird meeting and it was such an uncomfortable meeting. And she was absolutely wonderful. And she continued afterwards to try and get my book around, and she started looking at different publishers and smaller publishers. Her exact words were, "This is one of the best contemporary fantasies I've read in years." And she said, "I'm really frustrated that I can't seem to get it sold." Not long after, we had a FaceTime, and we're still in touch, ironically. And she said, "I'm leaving it. I'm leaving this job because I can't sell books to publishers anymore because these publishers aren't interested in the books that I think are very good." And she had about five other writers who were all trying to get their fantasy work sold. And she was very sad about it. Like, in her own words, the industry just feels complacent and they're not willing to take risks. And she's frustrated because she can't get good books and good work sold. And I read the manuscripts by the other writers because we're all connected. So we were sitting there on FaceTime for about an hour, and she said, "I have advice for you. Get the book professionally edited. There are plenty of editors around that will do it." She gave me a list of people, and I have done that. I've paid for that, and I'm still working through some stuff and do it independently. She said there are plenty of options. Kindle, iBooks, third-party sites will do everything for you. Do it yourself because you have a platform. It's small, but you have a platform and you can sell your book. And she said you will actually stand to make more money on less sales. And also, her words were, the industry now is at a point where no one's willing to take risks. No one's willing to look for new young talent. No one's willing to look for writers that don't fit a certain level of points or a quota. And she was sad about it. Like, she was so sad in this meeting. But I thank her, and we're still in touch. Ironically, now she still technically works within the literary industry, but she works running classes and teaching and running because she's a writer herself now. She published her first novel and, well, the second novel actually. And we've remained in touch, and she did it independently. Her disillusionment with the publishing industry was very evident, and her frustration with the industry was very evident. And the fact that she took me out for dinner, well, brunch, lunch, whatever you want to call it, paid for it, and had a conversation on her own time, I think is very telling. At this point, I'm working independently to get my book out there, and there is still a side of me that would love that experience again under my own terms, but I don't think it will ever happen. And that's being really honest. So eventually, The Slave Prince will come out, and I hope you guys like it. I want to get all three books down and done before I move on to the publishing side because I want to make sure everything is ready because I actually have a business plan. So yeah. Anyway, I will leave this one here. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Like, subscribe, and do the usual, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.